Team, we got 10 mistakes in 10 minutes. Man, I've sat on probably over 50 to 60 boards between competition and promotion boards. I've seen all kinds of craziness happen in the board. And here's 10 of them that you need to try to avoid yourself before you or somebody in your charge appears before an Army promotion or competition board. So the first one is, I ask a soldier, you get somebody who shows up and they smell of alcohol, they may be drunk on duty, what are your actions? And the response was, well, you know what, I'm going to send him back to his room and handle it at my own level. I'm not going to push it up to my chain of command or my NCO support channel. I'm just going to do what I do. Now, this is the wrong answer, team, right? Number one, regardless of the situation, man, always tell your first line supervisor, always talk to your commander if it needs command action, right? There's some things that your pay grade and rank cannot handle, and you need to know what those are. And this is one of them, right? If somebody shows up and they're drunk on duty, or potentially drunk on duty, well then they need to get sent down to the MP station for a breathalyzer. They need to be command referred into SUD-C. Quit trying to hide stuff. I've seen this one quite a few times, and it's not wearing everything right on our uniform, right? I've had soldiers and NCOs appear before the promotion board with awards and decorations on their chest that were not on their SRB or vice versa. And I've even seen people wear things, admittedly, not receiving them at all in the first place, aka some dadgum stolen valor. So, you know, be cautious of making sure that you scrub your SRB, make sure that your first line NCO is looking at your uniform and your SRB, and make sure you do that for those who are in your charge as well, because this is one mistake that could not end so pretty. Everybody has short and long-term goals, and if your goal is to get promoted to the next rank, then you should do things that are in your charge to do. For example, you know, I've had folks appear who are NCOs and they want to be a staff sergeant, right? That's one of their short-term goals. Yet when I look at their SRB and their correspondence tells me that they've only done 40 hours or 14 hours, like that's not acceptable. Man, if you have a goal, chase after it. Demonstrate to the board members that this is legitimately something that you want and that you're pushing towards your goals. Again, man, this is something that is entirely in your control. Nobody else can stop you, so get after it and do what you need to do. Right? So sometimes soldiers get issued uniforms in basic training, and then over the course of the time they swell up or they trim down, right? One of those two things is likely to happen to some folks. And so if this applies to you, man, in the months leading up to your board appearance, make sure you put on your uniform, have a battle buddy and NCO check it, and if you need to, get to the dadgum tailors and have it tailored, or get a new jacket. But if you can't render a hand salute because your uniform is too stinking tight, if you got rolls and curls and bulges, or if it's just draping all over you, man, get that thing fixed, because that is a thread that I'm going to pull on and make you fall apart. Man, this next one, it's a no-go, right? If you are a non-commissioned officer and you cannot recite the creed of the non-commissioned officer, what you're telling the board members is that you're not ready yet. Because truth be told, like, I want those soldiers to be able to recite the NCO creed, but I understand maybe if they fudge a word or if they stutter a little bit. But if you are a sergeant and your next goal is to be a staff sergeant, you want to be an NCO of NCOs, I expect you to know verbatim the creed of the non-commissioned officer, and I expect you to know the soldier's creed as well. So don't let that fall out of your kit bag. The things, you know, I've told people time and time again, man, is you need to be able to recite your bio, and it needs to come out exquisitely, like it's a script, because nobody knows you better than you. And so this next mistake is I've seen so many times people sit down and they begin to tell the president of the board and the members of the board a little bit about themselves, and they stutter, they stammer, they say things like, well, I lived there for, and they stop, right? This is not acceptable, because what you're doing to yourself is you're increasing your own stress level. And then again, this is something that you can control on your end through preparation and rehearsals. Say the words out loud. Don't just think them in your head. Say them out loud. Man, get your bio down and get it down dadgum verbatim. It should not be exactly as it's written on that sheet of paper, right? Get it down to where you can say it in a minute or less. Talk about who you are, where you're from, your military service, your hobbies, your family, if you're married, you got kids, and don't forget your short and long-term goals. Sometimes we say things and we don't understand the second and third order effect of the things that we are saying. For example, had somebody tell me recently that the Blue Book, which of course was written by Baron von Steuben, contained a plethora of knowledge that every NCO should know. I said, really? I said, so what is in the Blue Book? And they couldn't tell me. Team, be careful of the words, because you're going to set up a second or third question that you may not be able to answer. Everything that you say needs to be intentional, right? Don't set your own traps for yourself. Think about what you're saying and say it right and with conviction. This next one is huge, right? Too many times people either don't study at all, or they're not studying the right things. Maybe they're studying a pamphlet. Maybe they're studying from ArmyStudyGuide.com or whatever it is. And they start looking at questions, but they never really get what regulation to look into for specific areas. Now, board member may not tell you, hey, I'm going to start talking to you and asking you questions about the SHARP program, or I'm going to start talking to you about training or whatever. You need to have these titles and their respective numbers down verbatim and know what sorts of areas of questions that they are going to be relating to, right? Does that make sense? So if somebody did ask you about sexual harassment or assault and you weren't entirely sure what the answer was, you can say beyond the shadow of a doubt, First Sergeant, I would have to reference AR 600-20, Army Command Policy, for more information on that particular question. Right? See how easy that is? If you do that, I may not give you a go, but at least you're not falling apart on yourself and you're not destroying your own confidence. Come on, team. We can do better than this. Again, this next one is super easy mistake to make because we don't invest the time in ourselves. If we're an NCO, we don't invest the time in those who are in our charge. And it's not going to our S1 or our orderly room, whoever has access, to update that assignment history on our SRB. If you have overstrength, if you have known losses, these are key critical areas that tells me that you've never taken the time to update your record. You need to do that because I'm going to dig into you a little bit, especially if you're an NCO who hasn't taken that time to do it. Now, you want to make sure that you do, in addition to getting rid of those known losses or whatever it is, incoming personnel, is make sure you spend the time with your S1 because they have to manually input the 2 dates for each assignment. And then that way it'll populate that little column that says MO, that's your months, how long were you there, right? Pay attention to detail. If you're an NCO, make sure you have dates that match your data rank as well, right? Does that make sense? Everything should match. Everything should match. Here on your NCOER, make it all match as you go. This next one may not be huge or critical, but it is one that I chuckle at when I hear things like this. If you are appearing before a promotion board who's filled with first sergeants, right? And a command sergeant major, and your long-term goal is to become a master sergeant, I'm going to dig into you a little bit, right? What, you don't want to be a first sergeant? I mean, what's wrong with us, right? I'm just going to have a little fun. It's joshing and kidding, but you should consider what those long-term goals are, right? They should be attainable. If you came up and said you were, let's just say you're a maintainer, right, or a fueler or something, and you said that your long-term goal was to be the sergeant major of the Army. I mean, that briefs well, but does it? Make sure that your goals are attainable. Make sure that you are aware of the people in the panel that you're speaking to, right? It's like if I was at a NCO Academy and we were doing a leadership board or something, and somebody said at an NCO Academy that their goal was to become a commissioner or warrant officer. May not be the wrong thing, it just may not be the right thing for this particular audience. Does that make sense? So team, I hope you appreciated this, right? 10 quick and easy board mistakes that we can avoid by doing a little bit of proper planning on the front end so that we can master our craft and develop our tactical virtue. Appreciate all you guys, man. Make sure you leave some comments down below. That way we can continue to keep this conversation rolling. And as always, until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay still.